In today's episode, Miami Vice aims for contemplative introspection and ends up being maybe a little boring. Miami Vice's final episode of 1984 was The Little Prince, which was written by A.J. Edison and directed by Alan J. Levi. It has a pretty terrific opening sequence in which Trudy and Gina, playing a strung-out junkie and her worried friend, stagger down Miami's crime-ridden streets in search of a score while Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Relax plays. Relax is one of my all-time favorite songs of that decade, so Little Prince, I am 100% in your corner thus far. They're approached by a dealer named Luther, who is played by a very young and unsettlingly hot Giancarlo Esposito, who is famous for playing meth dealer Gus Fring on both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Altogether, Esposito will pop up on 3 separate episodes of Miami Vice playing 3 separate characters, which means he joins John Leguizamo and Ving Rhames, among others, in the prestigious club of actors who've played multiple roles on Miami Vice. Gina and Trudy accompany Luther to his den of sin and bust everyone there, including a strung-out rich kid named Mark, played by writer-director Mitchell Lichtenstein. Mark, a gentle yet aimless junkie, is the son of a rich and powerful tycoon involved in all sorts of shady business practices. Crockett and Tubbs get the idea that they might be able to go through Mark to take down his father. So Crockett starts hanging out at polo matches just to creep out the kid. At one point, he sardonically refers to polo as one of his real fave raves, which is a splendid bit of period-appropriate detail. I'm pretty certain no one has used the phrase fave rave since 1985. He meets Mark's father's kindly and supportive girlfriend, Mary, played by Mary Ann Plunkett. The Vice Squad stakes out a warehouse connected to Mark's father, which happens to be filled with 150 keys of cocaine. They bust Mary when she shows up at the warehouse, but Mark's father has her killed while she's out on bail to make sure she doesn't tell anyone about his involvement. Heartbroken, Mark agrees to wear a wire and extract a confession from his father. It ends with Mark's father arrested for Mary's murder and Mark turning his back on his privileged upbringing and hitchhiking his way out of Miami. Despite that absolute banger of an opening sequence, I don't necessarily love this episode. I have a soft spot for tragic messes, but Mark is not an especially well-developed character. If you're going to have an episode that serves primarily as a character study, you better make sure you have a fantastic character at the heart of it. Mark's story is undeniably a tragedy, but this episode tries to confer a nobility upon him without showing us what he's done to earn it. The episode's title, The Little Prince, seems to be a reference to the beloved 1943 book by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, which is a name I had to look up how to pronounce, and I'm pretty sure I mangled. The Little Prince is a wistful fable about a lonely and doomed young interplanetary visitor who comes to Earth in search of meaning and connection. I gather this episode wants us to find something of the same otherworldly quality to Mark, which is a lovely idea, but it doesn't quite get us there. Since I don't have all that much to say about the story, I'm going to quickly touch on an aspect of Miami Vice that I haven't addressed yet, which is Crocketts' wardrobe. Crocketts' whole look launched a bunch of fashion trends in the mid-80s. Whiter pastel suits paired with pastel t-shirts, loafers without socks, and just enough stubble to flatter the jawline without looking unkempt. Guys in the 80s imitated this look to varying degrees of success, though it always looked great on Don Johnson, who was handsome and slim and tan enough to wear head-to-toe pastels without looking sickly or washed out. It was a good look for Crockett, but it was also a smart look. As I've mentioned before, Crockett is almost always undercover as his drug-running alter ego, Sonny Burnett, which is why Vice has set him up with all the accoutrements of easy wealth: the boat, the Ferrari, the designer wardrobe. Only Crockett is not actually a wealthy guy, and he's got all these fancy clothes that he doesn't know how, or more likely, doesn't care how, to properly wear. He's taking these high-end clothes and dressing for comfort in the hot Miami weather, which is why he doesn't wear a button-down shirt or a necktie or socks. It's a cool bit of characterization that ended up sparking multiple global fashion trends. In addition to Relax, music used in this episode includes Tiny Demons by Todd Rundgren, which plays while Mark is shooting up in his palatial family home, and Autograph's Turn Up the Radio, which plays while the Vice detectives stake out the warehouse. I think Two Flamingos seems about right for this episode. The potential is there, but the core idea isn't developed well enough for it to have the impact it should. If you join me next time, our next episode, Milk Run, is going to deal with similar themes, i.e. kids who get in way over their heads with tragic results, but will have considerably more success. Until then, please follow me on Twitter and/or hit subscribe, and I will see you then. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.